All right, welcome everybody. Welcome. I'm Hannah New. I'm the, looks like I'll have to unmute you guys. Sorry. I'm Hannah New. I'm the marketing manager for the University of Utah Press. Welcome to the book launch for Carolyn Oliver's book, Inside the Storm, I Want to Touch the Tremble. This was chosen, I got the picture of the book. This was chosen by Matthew Olsman, and it just came out. You'll probably see that you all are muted, and I'm hoping that we can keep it that way. Feel free to put questions in the chat, either privately to me or in general, and we'll do a question and answer at the end of the event. So before we start, I wanted to call out some of our guests in the audience. We have Beatrice Zimkovic. I hope I said that right. She's in France right now. Her book will be coming out in spring of 23. Congratulations to her. Her book is called Birds with an S. I remembered that one. I would also like to recognize my boss, Glenda Cotter, who's the director of the press. All right, let's start. Let's jump right into the reading. We're going to start with Carolyn. Carolyn Oliver is the author of Inside the Storm, I Want to Touch the Tremble, chosen by Matthew Olsman for the Agha Shahid Ali Prize in Poetry and 2 previous chapbooks. Her 3rd chapbook, Night Ocean, will be published by Seven Kitchens Press in 23. Carolyn's poems appear in the Massachusetts Review, Shenandoah, Beloit Poetry Journal, 32 Poems, Southern Indiana Review, Cherry Tree, and in many other journals. Carolyn is the winner of the E.E. Cummings Prize from the NEPC, the Goldstein Prize from the Michigan Quarterly Review, and the Franklin O'Hara Prize from the Worcester Review, where she now serves as the editor. She lives in Massachusetts with her family. There you go.
Yeah. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here tonight. I'm so delighted to see all your lovely faces and or names. And thank you to everybody at the University of Utah Press. Glenda, thank you for being here. And thank you to Jessica Booth, who designed this cover, and Matthew Olsman for letting me be here. It's just wonderful. So I'm going to start very unoriginally by reading the first poem in the book, which is the source of its long and some might say pretentious title. This poem is called My Son Asks If I Would Rather Live in a House Infested by Bees or a House Infested by Koalas. Late summer, hurricane scraps batter the crabapple that didn't bloom this year, peeling open a paper nest high in the branches. Pitiless, I hope it's empty, hope they're gone, the wasps. All these hot weeks, they've refused my offering of phlox and milkweed, sunflowers and ruby buckwheat. Instead, they've stalked the raised beds of vegetables I should tend, patrolled the deck when I need to rest, skimmed my neck for a flinch. Allergic to, my father as a child had a friend whose mother died, suffocated when a wasp or a bee stung her throat. So my son's question, survival means koalas on the stairs, lamps turned boughs, menthol in the mouth. Means marked territories and the slow click of claws in the dark, days safe in a house full of sleep. But sometimes, it feels right to tell you this, sometimes, inside the storm, I want to touch the tremble of a colony warming its queen. I want walls seeping honey. I want a willing tongue. Thank you. Next, I'm going to read, appropriately, since we just had the harvest moon, reading Szymborska Under a Harvest Moon. Though I don't know a word of Polish, or even how to pronounce the consonants bunched like root vegetables or variables, I adore her poems offered this way. The spine's shadowed curve a double tilde, dividing original and English versions, like scrolling algebra equations the teacher checks years ago. That September I spend hoping to grow unnoticed among the rows of desks, while behind me the window, open against the heat, flaunts its tantalizing view down into the courtyard, where amber afternoon conceals 2 who sow the quiet with their kisses, their murmurs, while at the chalkboard, a girl more sedulous than I, less struck with fear and wonder in want's new acreage, labors through a problem whose solution becomes somehow a crop of possibilities I won't gather, because my attention's owed to other pastures, tilling the sounds below for sense, just as now I pick out an I for and, chas for time, delighted at this minor unearthing until I remember a word can mean more than once, like turn, crane, fair, field, lie, sign, strike, quick, like magazine, a word you think you know, a place to hold what might explode. Thank you. This next poem is called The Anchorite to Rising Seas. There are quite a few persona poems in this collection, but so I thought I would just read this one because it only requires one voice and some of them require two. The Anchorite to Rising Seas. Oh, prayer comes and goes, tide-like, you know. Lately, I've been occupied swallowing the world, every piece I can remember. Faces, incense, music, the taste of wine on another tongue. Only colors left, gray and brown, maybe green and blue, when I can't help myself, but I'm trying to let them go. You understand, don't you? How to take and take a bit more every day. Your sigh's so close. Now. When you come in, could you bring some purple? Just a little for the end. One of the sections in this book, the middle section, is a poem. Is a section of poems of elegy and grief. Those of you who know me in real life know that I was engaged to a wonderful poet and person named Eric Van Cleve. He was a wonderful poet. He was extremely funny, a quality that I wish I had. And this poem is for him. Listening to Rafe Vaughan Williams on a Tuesday night. Just as the phrase goes thin, so thin mountain air passing through would leave a scar on its transparency. The solo violinist broke the breathless note years ago in summer. Tonight, I close a book, note the oval smudge on its edge. You held your books this way, index finger braced against the spines opposite, the sternum. Your fingerprint in pencil means you were writing the day you turned these pages, though the margins are First Communion white, a record of that pristine attention you offered other poets. You gave it again and again, as if rehearsing a longer silence. Opening the book once more, I find the inscription I missed, and then your spiky initials inside the back cover. Your letters look always like they want a life off the page. The Y in my name diving twice as deep as the word. And how is it you will never write the poem that's waiting about gasping letters getting the bends? You would know what to do with this, Volta. I think I am supposed to return to the concert, your last summer. I think I'm supposed to return to the fragile second cadenza. I think I'm supposed to write about dive and ascent. I'm supposed to tell you that bearing witness to that unmeant quiet made me better love to listen, love to breathe. But what I remember now is all that hollow air, no sound, no word could save. It's telling me that. One of the very happy things about this prize for me, aside from getting the chance to have this book in the world and be able to share it with all of you, is that Agha Shahid Ali is actually one of my very favorite poets. And he's just wonderful. And if you wanted to seek out his collections, I could not recommend them more. And as you know, if you know his work, you know one of the forms he's very famous for is the ghazal, which is a form in couplets with a refrain. And there happen to be two ghazals in this book, which I would never have written had I not known about Agha Shahid Ali. And this particular one I'm going to read is also an obad. And for the non-poets with us tonight, An obad is a dawn song. It's sort of the opposite of a serenade. And you've probably encountered one in Romeo and Juliet, which we all had to read in high school. An obad. If God breaks your window by reciting an obad, tell her you needed the glass. Start writing an obad. Ochre woods at sunrise, a hunter forms his shoulder around his gun. Through the oaks, he's eyeing an obad. Like swaying trees, whales dream of sweet dark depths as morning bleaches blackberry from the sea, sighing an obad. Upstairs, the bed's gone cold. On a beach we don't deserve, I turn to you and ask, are we buying an obad? Who lives to tell of Don Juan's lovers' bones embellish broken ground? Somewhere John Donne's replying, an obad. Winter. Pearl light presses against sleeping snow and skin warmed where with tongue or ink, she's inscribing an obad. Death paces in the empty tomb, an angel lingers at the mouth, whispers sink and rise, fighting an obad. Guards slouch round a block, the fallen city waits. Like frost or smoke, two shadows melt away, hiding an obad. Clocks blink out, the storm arrives. We never went to bed. Carolyn, now's no time to be trying an obad. I'm going to read just one more poem. And I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who's here. And if you have seen this book, you know that the acknowledgements page is more than a page, it's quite long because I owe this book's existence and my life to very many friends and family. And I'm so appreciative for all of you being here. And I'm so appreciative and so excited to read with these poets tonight. So thank you very much. This last poem is called Still Life with Lost Tooth and Cooling Universe. And it's going to sound like a sonnet, but it's not. It's a weird form called a breath double, which is kind of fun if you want to try it. Still life with lost tooth and cooling universe. Neither gray nor gold, young light spends its salt scatter on the chipped tooth, lost just now to make space. Blood sticks everywhere, sharp rim, hollow core, except the phantom chip, gone years ago, up where the current licks at lace-tipped sleek Atlantic waves, where waters lit warm green, no shore beyond reach. Meanwhile, the cosmos thins and slips away, always bends toward dark. Stellar nurseries go cold, black holes feast, and time's an oar digging too deep. Yet past physics, past absence, past ghost, love extends. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate that. All right, up next we have Ben Gucciardi, who has a little visitor with him today. Maybe he'll show her to us if we're really lucky. Benjamin Gucciardi is the author of West Portal, chosen by Gabrielle Calvacorsi for the prize in poetry. And he's also the author of the chapbook, I Asked My Sister's Ghost, from New Michigan Press. His poems have appeared in Agni, Alaska Quarterly Review, Best New Poets, Harvard Review, New Ohio Review, Orion Magazine, Southern Indiana Review, and other journals. He's received the Booth Prize for the Unexpected Literature and the Milton Kessler Memorial Prize from the Harper Palette. Sorry, I just realized that Ben sent me an updated bio. He's also a finalist for the Northern California Book Awards and the Julie Succo Poetry Awards. I apologize, Ben. Sorry, I lost my place. He also works with refugee and immigrant youth in Oakland, California through Soccer Without Borders, an organization he founded in 2006. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And that little visitor is my 5-week-old daughter, Cleo, who is sleeping peacefully until like 30 seconds ago. So my plan is to read about 5 poems, and I'm hoping that I can. And if not, I will gracefully pass it along to Zachary so as to not interrupt everything too much. So this is a little soundtrack here. Her mom is teaching in San Francisco right now. So let me just see if I can. Actually, maybe what we Okay, let's see if I can do this. If not, I think possibly the best thing would be just to pass it on, and maybe I come back later if it works. Actually, maybe let's do that. Let me pass it to Zach, if that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry about that. Yeah, let's move on to Zachary Asher. Ben, if you feel up to reading again, just send me a private note. We'll slip you in. Zachary Asher is the author of Gone Bird in the Glass Hours, a poem play chosen by Alberto Rios, and a prior collection of poems, Scarlight, by Ravenna Press, 2014. He has an MFA in creative writing from Vanderbilt University, where he was the founding editor of Nashville Review. A Californian by trade, student of the West, Zachary has shared and taught poetry for over 15 years in school, camps, yoga studios, cancer support spaces, substance abuse treatment centers. Today, he lives with his family on a hillock in the Flathead Valley of Montana. All right, let me unmute you. There you go.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you, Ben. I think many of us here may know a thing or two about very small babies. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, the University of Utah Press, 2020 onward. Yeah, good to see you both. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to keep it swift so we can keep it moving. I'm going to read a poem from Gone Bird, a poem from Scarlight, and then a new poem. We'll just keep it thematic is all I'll say. Congratulations, Karen. Ganesha enters the body laughing. Yes, 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 I am the elephant god. Make room. Inside your angry, bruised kingdom, make room. When was the last time you saw an elephant god? Elephant, or just God? Or when was the last time you imagined yourself one? For the sweet spell of it. There is an absence to fill, and yes, there are a lot of gods. It is the temples, my friend, that are empty. Do you remember Pablo Neruda? Oh, what a bloom it was to sing through his body. Remember when he asked who cried for joy when the color blue was born? I did. Now I'll keep that off camera. Scarlight goes out to my old dear friend Mark Gibbons, this poem in particular. Brother Because. This is what Scarlight looks like. This is what Gone Bird looks like. Beautiful. Thank you. Wasatch winter coming, but there was still time to take a trip into the Utah steppe after he left the coast for Salt Lake, testing himself in climbing equipment, doing with his restless hands what he loved. He knew a place off the grid we could walk for miles. Here, where the forecast foreshadows rain, it rains. Pre to trans, lewd formation, prelude to transformation, figured inside the thermometer's mouth, marred with teeth and trust that if you show your face to the chorusing forest that gallops here, hair will be mossing your nape. Why sing into darkness? Why spur your wheel into dark flesh? Brother, because one night, such as tonight, you will no longer be older than I am. And who then will I look up to and confide how recently I was thrown from a horse? So I am writing to you, brother, with both hands, the way I speak to God, not expecting a response, hoping still to be proven wrong. Thank you. Here goes a work in progress, as is the new life. My beloved and I have brought a very small child into the world, 8 months or so. So let's give this work in progress a try. This one's for you. Psychedelicate starts with a haiku. Psychedelicate. Lula Kali came out, clutching the mala bead. In can descent seed. Shot out in bloom, last minute of the morning. Mama monsoon. May you just may in the mountains. Dear God, thank God, there is no God. Just this one, etc. Daughter texture, snowing somewhere. Laughter weather, what spills here? What's wasted in the warming? Sometimes we are away, not far. Always before the door, made plans to tear back to where you are. Right here, lake clear. Look how tall I am between the trees. Orangutaney, orangutaney. Good things are coming your way, Lula, like pillows. No advice, except let nobody dim your light. I suppose then you got to be the one to keep it on. One more you have to, be able to make fun of yourselves and elves, but in a nice way. Personally, I feel better when I sing. I still tend to a bird inside me. Diaphanous, our outside mornings, with spoon or stick, Dayenu, it already is enough, drumming teal and old river stones. It's okay when you take my stick to have two sticks. I go rock on rock. No memory, except to smell me like a raindrop with coffee in the kisses. Trippy tributary, prismatique, yellow stoned, ye noble young geezer. Wherefore when you lie exactly on my heart, I don't know who's breathing who. Same goes for farting, but that's another tune. Lord, please my baby, plink my baby, please my baby tonight. Dream, Dr. E in the AM, coming to you live from the dawn dark. Before I forget everything, I will pee the spider web off the ledge, kiss the goo out of your eyes. I will eat the bees, poop them out to pollinate your Pleiades, that sort of macho cheese. It's no problem when you sneeze into my belly button. Davening rod dousing a mess of God bless you ings. I'm sorry my boobs are broken and hairy. They will be for some considerable time. I don't know what it means not to lie to you about everything. Early reports are in and no, you are not a myth. It turns out to fix every broken shell of my heart. Thank God. I don't shark around. I am your Piscean friend, tiny wizard. So yes, we speak by spitting water. Proprioceptorus, I will find your dinosaur. The middle way will baffle us both, battle the ghosts, undulous creek gone babble us both. Mostologist and the philosopher, they'll never know who is who. Zen book to swat wasps, breath blocks to stand up, an inheritance of barbed wire. I hang laundry on it. Bluebird on the wire, celebrity. I heard about a bird. She say it's super tops, super tops. Excuse me, sir. Are you a poop or a rock? On account of them bugs, I hurt over the earth. So sang Triceratops. Man, what you want? Look how small I am. between the trees. Bird improviser who sometimes writes it down, like now. Mostly I too crawl towards the music. Boom 3 edition. Kerplunk my paw into a puddle of Sanson bowl or sunlight. Come up empty-handed. Outstanding. Sometimes I fall. Sometimes I lose it. The way she rips with Himalayan hands, time from the stem. The way you throw down book. I chop wood, spill water. You throw down book. The way blues are prayers, because you cared enough to sing them out. We too pour down, blue-berried mouth. We out here, Mr. Bear. We out here, Mr. Bear. The marsh merges, ooze of the bittersweet bone. I know why the drumstick ain't the bone. The swells thatching the hustle down of the light. Unravel the ledgered self right here, light year away. Only the sun has no suns. Look up, look out, javelin in love. Thank you.
Thank you, Zachary. I'd like to point out that Lindsay said that that's a duet, and you should always read that poem with her.
She has her own poem in the book. And I wanted to just quickly say, if anyone's interested in the new work, most poems are not about poop or dinosaurs. Just the ones at the end.
That's great. Thank you. So next up is Lindsay Lusby. Besides both of us sharing a love of forensic files, she is also the author of the poetry collection Catechesis. I hope I said that right. A post-pastoral. The winner of the Agha Shahid Ali Poetry Prize, judged by Kamiko Han. She is also the author of 2 chapbooks, Blackbird Whitetail Red Hand from Porkbelly Press and Mago, Dancing Girl Press, and the winner of the 2015 Fairy Tale Review Poetry Contest. Her poems have appeared most recently in Puerto del Sol, New South, Gulf Coast, the Cincinnati Review, and Plume. Her visual poems have appeared in Dream Pop Press and Duende. Her first lyric essay, You Never Think It Could Happen to You, A Reckoning with True Crime, was published in the fall 2020 issue of Waxwing. She's the senior poetry reader for Cherry Tree, and she edits poems at Telltale Poetry. Let me unmute you. There you go.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And thank you, Carolyn, for inviting all of us poets to be here with you tonight. I'm so thrilled to be celebrating with you. So I am going to read a few, I don't know, probably like 3 poems from my University of Utah Press book, which came out in 2019. And you were so close, Hannah. Catechesis. It's a hard word. It's not in our everyday vocabulary. So it's catechesis, a post-pastoral. And also, as Hannah said, she and I share a love of true crime shows, which will definitely come through in the poems that I'm reading for you tonight. I also have an obsession with horror movies and with fairy tales, and all of that kind of gets mixed up in my poems. So just not really a trigger warning, but just a heads up, like of it's not going to be baby poems. So shifting gears. So the few poems that I'm going to read to you from Catechesis take their titles from lines of dialogue from the movie The Silence of the Lambs, which is one of my favorite movies. This first one is called That Is Rather Slippery of You, Agent Starling. When the truth is small enough to fit in your cupped hands, you chase it with a broom to every corner of the house, to pin its bristling body there against the papered cabbage roses. When it beats between your fingers, all sinew snap and barbed air You will know it is less hope than feather, more crush than bone. Sorry, it's been a while since I've done a reading. I did practice right before this though. Okay, the next one is called, Why Do You Think He Removes Their Skins, Agent Starling? Are you a bird in a woman's suit, Clarice? Some pretty little blood sparrow, such lung span, such bright palpitation, red thread, red thread, red thread. Peeled back, you are the same shade of robin redbreast. You are plucked up, ready for love to wear you like a girl pelt and preen. And let's see. The last one in this series is a pretty iconic title, Have the Lambs Stopped Screaming? When you find him, will you ask for a glass of water, for a handful of sugar, to use the phone? Already she is hanging inside him from a meat hook, a field-dressed tenderfoot swinging by her ankles. Does he know that you know? When he is asleep, rip him open like a barn door. So those three are from Catechesis, which is my University of Utah Press book. And I love this book, my very first book. I'm so grateful to Hannah and the University of Utah Press for giving me that opportunity. And of course, Kimiko. I adore Kimiko Han. I was gonna read a few new poems tonight. One is very, very new. I just wrote it this summer. And I'm a very slow writer, so that is like hot off the presses. It's a month and a half old. And the others I wrote last year, but only one of them has been accepted for publication so far. This first one will actually be appearing in the forthcoming issue of Copper Nickel, which is due out next month. And it's called In Captivity, a Bored Octopus Will Eat Her Own Arms. And that's a true fact. Sometimes you have to choose between the hunger you know and the knife that you don't. Sometimes you can cut off all your silver hair and still end up a puddle of seafoam and salt. Sometimes your loneliness becomes a separate animal and you let it wallow in a bucket of brackish water blinking up at the silt gray sky. Sometimes you throw it back. It's actually a very sad fact because it's a sign of the octopus's degrading mental health when that happens, but it's also, I found it a very interesting fact. I love octopuses, they're amazing. Okay, so I've got three more new ones for you and they're all short. This next one is called Self-Portrait as Night Swimming. I play dead under the pink moon, one lung full of lake, one lung full of sky, eyelids wide as the night blooming water lilies. I float on the still surface of morning with its pink petals, cloud of mayflies, hazy moon glow, refracted and shared. I am iridescent as an oil slick. I am nightshade beneath the bright moth light. It's impossible to sink under unless you swallow a mouthful of it. Blue bottles and black water, the weight of this revolving sadness that stitches its wet shadow to the bottoms of your feet. Self-portrait as recurring dream. Soft sodium glow through the window and streetlight running salt sweet down the back of my throat. In all the houses I've ever lived, I'm remembering somewhere else I need to be, and it's always back to the woods. I spend all night searching for a place, soft place to curl up among the dead leaves and fern fronds. I am pulling out my teeth molars like ripe turnips, unstuck, plucked. I dig a fresh hole to bury them in. This is how I will go to seed, one shining bone at a time. And my last one, which is the newest one, and so is also my current favorite, because that's how it works with poems. This one is called The Quantum Mechanics of Missing Girls. And the epigraph reads, with some help from Schrodinger, Einstein, and Heisenberg. Until you open the box, she is both alive and dead. When you lift the lid, a single particle of trunk light makes a run for the roadside. Now measure what remains, and this simple equation will give you the precise mass of hope, the velocity of not knowing. It all weighs less than a dust mote, but we know it exists because as light is always in motion, so too is the dark that follows behind it, even when we stop looking. All we have left of her is this spooky action at a distance, haunting the hairs on the backs of our necks like stray electrons. She wanders lost in the overgrown electromagnetic field at the edge of town. Globes of milkweed and subatomic particles, all the white houses that line these streets like rows of perfect teeth. Thank you guys so much.
Great, thank you, Lindsay. All right, Heather. Heather June Gibbons is the author of the poetry collection Her Mouth as Souvenir, winner of the Agha Shahid Ali Prize in Poetry, chosen by Jericho Brown. It was recommended by the Oprah magazine, San Francisco Chronicle, NPR, and The Millions, and it was a finalist for the Northern California Book Award. A graduate of the University of Iowa Writers Workshop, she has received fellowships and awards from the Academy of American Poets, Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown, and Vermont Studio Center. Lives in San Francisco.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here, and it's amazing to hear all of you read. Congratulations, Carolyn, and just wonderful to hear everybody. And good to see you, Hannah. You're winning the Statement Necklace Award for the evening. I thought I'd read two poems from the book that's the University of Utah Press book. I wanted to read a third because it's a self-portrait poem, and I was thinking about Lindsay's self-portrait poems, but I promised my daughter, who is in the room, that I read anything with bad words. So that does limit a little bit, not that my book is full of profanity or anything. Okay, so I will not read that one, but I'm thinking about self-portraits, and just, it's wonderful to hear and have all of your work in my ears and brain. And I always have that wonderful feeling of like wanting to change what I'm reading because I want to be in dialogue. But okay. This is called Bobby Reed's Checkoff. We think we know, but still we look it up on our phones, only to discover a sea serpent has just been found off the coast. Personally, I never doubted the accounts of all those sailors of antiquity, though months at sea and regular bouts of scurvy must occasionally distort one's sense of proportion. Do we really need scientists to prove that listening to sad music leads to catharsis, or that dogs feel shame? As Bobby reads, a wedge of his brain glows slime green, like that old Simon Says game. Evidently, metaphors arouse the sensory cortex. Sexy. Some days my yard becomes a metaphor for everything I do wrong. Moldy dog poop, stray butts, a shrub's yellowed leaves. They say if you're sad, you haven't been smiling enough. Want to make better decisions? Eat more cheese. Perception is reality, my horrible boss used to say when I tried to explain anything she couldn't see. Though maybe she was right. Can we know reality any other way? The painter saw purple in the trees, so he painted them purple. Leaving the gallery, we see purple everywhere. Studies have shown meditation produces brain waves akin to coma. Is that so, you say, fingering your tiny screen? Carolyn had something about purple I was thinking about too. Yes, I was like, oh, purple. Yes, purple everywhere. I see it everywhere too. Okay, how about a poem about climate change? The green rose up. It didn't matter that we wore our silver suits. Cities welled up and were overwhelmed. The green kept rising until we waded in algae. And at night, a phosphorescent bloom lit the pathways our limbs had traveled and pocked the surface of the water with sparks. Inland, sycamores gnarled towards the bank. We banged on the doors of the institution, but nobody heard us. We tipped our hats, then crumpled them in our hands and did a little soft shoe without knowing what we were asking for. The green rose up and we couldn't see past it. Vines covered the brick debris. A pheasant nested in the high grass of the raised block, and all around us was condemnation and vacancy. So we left the city. We left our clothes. We lined up at the agency and spoke only of our strengths and not of the law that keeps us upright in the rotor ride, ironed to a curve. When we say we want to live in the moment, what we mean is we want not to want an impossible future. To be conscious of every breath is to be unable to think of anything else, which is to say, happier. So along those lines, hello, child. I thought I'd bring my child on too, since we're having a baby party, which is great. So I'm going to read 3 new ones, and that'll be it. This one is also kind of, well, it's dystopic for sure. I have this idea for a series, which usually means I just write one poem in that vein, and it doesn't go anywhere after that, but I'm really, really hopeful about this one. I'm calling it Netflix ekphrasis. So the idea is that I'm going to watch an episode of a show deep into many seasons, but not knowing anything about the show or ever having watched any episodes, and then write a poem and just kind of see what comes out. So I did that with Westworld, and this is what came out. This was just very recently. So sorry if there are spoilers in here, I wouldn't know what they are. Westworld. You're in someone else's heavy simulation. Once real people who lived and died, now they're robots. You don't know them, and you didn't know them when they were alive. So why do you cry when you see them crying on the new high definition screen that doesn't seem much better than what you had before? You've never seen this show, but the soundtrack strings and warped bells are familiar. Your simulation also glitched and swelled. What did you say in your scene when he told the wry, flirtatious joke you knew he would tell, could almost mouth along to? What did he say? Or was he singing, or was it you? Cue bright lights and irritating organ music. The man asks, do you remember this moment? The woman says, I'm looking for my dead father. Blackout, then a desert, a hero's journey in reverse. You touch your face and notice you're bleeding a little and have been all along. He was never your father, says the man with the shovel. Cue chrome glint and digital transmissions, cue revolving glass door. The last thing you remember, a tracking shot of yellow sky. These last two, this one is in honor of the babies, the new babies, the old babies, all of the babies, which includes all of us. It's called Parnassus, and my daughter will be hearing this for the first time, which also seems in keeping with the evening. Parnassus. You were born in a hospital on Parnassus Street, which, like the Greek mountain, is mythic steep. You were born and everything got so literal. I moaned and lowed on all fours like the animal I actually am, in a curtained room literally the size of a closet, and you slid out in undulations of pain so extreme as to be literally unimaginable. Now that my body can no longer remember them, blocked perhaps by a biological imperative, basic and deep as the way I sobbed when they took you away and fought to see you right then, though I'd lost so much blood, the doctor insisted I could not, that I shouldn't even be able to stand, let alone walk the length of the hall to you, which I did. How literally draining it was to transmogrify into a full-on maternal mammal as you rooted for a nipple before you'd even opened your eyes. Then we rested in shifts on a cot in a literal supply closet, waiting for them to unplug you. So tiny, your torso fit in your father's hand. Literal, meaning exactly as stated, simple, factual, every cliche turned true. I can't tell this any other way. But after what felt like a great escape, down from the machine hum hospital mountain on a rare sunny day in a city known for summer fog, everything turned metaphor. You were everywhere, every flower so exactly like your puckered face, your fist tucked under your chin, opening and closing reflexively like a barnacle's Siri, tiny feather waving slowly underwater as each moment slowed to an eternal present. Your face always before me, even when I'd close my eyes. The barely there weight of you, your soft head grotesque, bruised, pressed conical by the sheer force by which I pushed just in time, minutes before they would have cut you out of me. Okay, she might be crying, so I don't know if that's good or bad. Just never know. Last poem, it also has to do with growing things. I moved after some difficult personal things that we will not discuss. I moved into a new house with my daughter. And one of the promises of this place was that it had a backyard, although it was not really a yard at the time, it was a bunch of trash. But the landlord promised that if we would do the work, and we could do whatever we wanted with the space. Carrot. How could a seed so small, it's nearly lost in the creases of my child's palm, almost imperceptible, pinched between her thumb and forefinger as she drops it into dirt we salvaged from brambles and debris, a shopping cart, a weather-shredded tarp, slabs of hardened plaster, petrified rats, where I still find broken glass, fragments of tile hammered to pieces, even once a plastic tampon applicator. How could a seed dropped here, barely covered and patted by a child's hand, grow so deep into a bright and tapered root? How could anything like that taste so sweet?
Thank you, Heather. I am going to make Ben a co-host so he can unmute himself at any time. until then, I'm going to read a couple of poems from his manuscript, if that's okay with everybody. Okay, yeah, and Ben, just unmute yourself if you feel like you can read these. He told me his little girl's a little fussy. Okay. Whoops, I lost my place. Okay, the first poem I'm going to read from his book, West Portal, is called Type 2. 5 times a day, I prick my finger and ask my blood about its failure. Out of its cage, it wants to discuss its better cages. How, before it was mine, it lived inside a python near Varennes. The thrill of rushing when a muscle snaps a rabbit's spine. How it wants to paint a self-portrait as the Ganges River. In the foreground, a woman in a yellow sari cleanses her son's limp body. His skin the color of the river the color of her eyes. That's how holy I am, it says, as I turn the meter off, trash the strip, and choose a new tract to stick the insulin in. The python uncoils from its cache, blinks beneath a rusty harrow. The woman weaves marigolds in her son's wet hair. Climbs beside him on the bamboo board. The current ferries them off the canvas, stretched over blue tile. Marigolds spill into my hamper, crimson petals on the bathroom floor. I'm sorry, I already forgot which poem I was going to read. Okay, great, I got it. Thank you for patient with me. I was worried about Benjamin's poems when I first saw the manuscript because he has some circle poems. And I remember writing to the production manager about it. And she was like, that's a nothing. You should see what some of these other poets do. Anyway, you'll have to get his book to see the circle poems. And I apologize. There we go. Okay. I ask my sister's ghost to take me with her. Not because the reefs are bleaching, because I want to see how thin the veil is. To row behind her in the boat she came in, row all day, into night, and where the river turns to delta, blade my oar to beach the dinghy on the bank of silt and cattail. Because I want to hide with her in midnight swaying, turn my ears from the throng of bullfrogs to the song she hums. Listen to her stories of its blind composer, how he charmed wives at the royal parties in Dublin, his fingers sweeping each glissando, his eyes clouded over like a cod on ice. There is a Chinese symbol she taught me for a word that has no word, but I can never remember how to draw it, what tone to put in my throat to speak. The inked shape of that mutable mark hangs just beyond the last branch of my mind as she turns to leave. There is nothing I can say to convince her to take me, so I pluck the tongue from my mouth and lay it flat on a stone where she bends to inspect the petal. It becomes a red door. It creaks as she opens it, walks into the unspoken without turning back. Okay, one more. If you have any questions for the poets, please feel free to put it in either the general chat or a private chat to me. And I will ask. My computer has decided it's not. All right, here we go. The Nest. The Nest for Alfredo Espino. This morning, I watched a goldfinch disappear into a tree through a hole no bigger than my open mouth. From the hollow, the finch began her crooning. That's what poetry is, I thought. Not the tree, but the hidden song. Not the yellow bird, but the instinct to climb inside the darkness to sing. I would just like to say that I'm probably the luckiest person in this group because I get to work with all these poets. And my favorite part of my job is calling the winner each year. It's the best part. The second best part is being an author holder book for the first time. All right. Oh, thank you guys. Thanks, you're making me blush. So I don't see any questions unless they came in while I was reading. But we only have a few, oops, sorry, a few minutes left. I'm going to unmute a couple of you guys. I'm sorry, Ben, I'm going to keep you muted and let you guys talk it out a little bit. Maybe talk about what keeps you guys writing after your first book.
I guess I'll go unless somebody else wants to. Okay. I had a really hard time after finishing writing my first book, trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do next, because I had spent so long, like years, in that headspace of that particular book that I was fashioning, like as a greater project, poem by poem, building to a greater project. So once that was done, I was kind of bereft. I was like, I forget how to just write a poem that can just be on its own. It doesn't have to be part of a larger project. So it took me a while to reset and get back to that space. But it did happen. I think it just took a little while to just get the old book out of my system, out of like active circulation in my brain. And like about 9 months later, I finally was, after writing a few bad poems that came out first, I actually started writing a few poems that I liked, and I was like, oh, I can see how this can develop into a book. And so I'm still working on that second book. How many years later? 4 years later, I'm still working on it. It's been slow. There have been some roadblocks in my personal life that I've just kind of taken over, but yeah, eventually you get there. The writing always comes back. You just have to wait.
Thank you, Lindsay. Zachary, I see you've got your little co-reader with you right there. Well,
I think Zachary's muted.
Oh, Zachary, do you want to unmute? Sorry. There we go.
Thank you. That was a beautiful reading, everyone, for joy and for skills and pathos. Dolly Cannell was like an early hero of mine, and he always wrote rad poems about his kids, and I was jealous because I didn't have a kid. It wasn't looking like I was having a kid. And I thought, oh yeah, now I got all this inspiration to write new poems. And it's true, except that you're very tired and you don't really write that many poems. So shout out to my young friend Grace. She taught me. I write poems behind her back on my notes in my phone, and then never have more sessions. Like, recently this reading was lovely because it gave an impetus to trudge to the death. So yeah, it's like that's the battle. High inspiration, low energy, but that's like common, I think, for regular people too. Parents, I don't know. Yeah, I guess we're regular. Maybe we're the most regular people. But I don't know. I was writing poems before the book, and God willing, I'll keep writing poems after the book. And just grateful, like enough come together. I love the making of a project. It keeps me going. So I think it's fun to perceive how they are as a unit. Maybe I spent too much time in that phase, but I've always enjoyed the way that artists like put a book of poems together. So that keeps me going too. Yeah. And yeah, I'll say that. Thank you.
I just want to add to what Zachary said, like my favorite feeling is being in the middle of a project, not necessarily starting a new one or finishing a book, but like being smack in the middle of a book because you like it's just got that energy that it gives you. And I feel like I always have a place to start with my poems because I have like at least like a platform of several poems to like jump from into the next one. So.
Yeah.
So since you guys have gone through this, I see Beatrice is online. I'm going to unmute you, Beatrice, and maybe if you guys have any advice for her since she is just starting out.
Well, first of all, congratulations, Beatrice.
So many congratulations. So exciting.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here tonight. Actually, 3 a.m. here in France.
Oh, wow.
I'm visiting my family. It's okay. But it's kind of nice to hear poetry, at that time of the night. There's a quiet, and so it lets, the words be. And so thank you so much, all of you, for reading. Congratulations to Carolyn for the book. Yeah, I'm very glad to be here.
Well, I just have to say that you'll love working with Hannah. She's great. I'm sure you've noticed that so far in your communications with her, but
yes, and now I can put a face to the email.
yes.
Oh, go on.
But she's so great to work with, and I mean, like, she bent over backwards for me. I mean, I tried not to make her bend over backwards. Like she made a lot of great things happen for me, and I will be forever grateful. And she's also just a wonderful person to like have a conversation with. So
It seems so.
I really love that I get to work with the poets. We, like a few years ago, we talked about discontinuing this series, and I basically was like, no, I'll do anything we can to keep it going. And so far we've been able to do it. I actually had a question come in. Heather, you said you're in San Francisco. Where else could I see your poetry? Or is there a poetry community you found in San Francisco?
Yeah, it's Sukriti, I think. Yeah. Let's see. Well, they're just sort of starting to get back into doing in-person readings in the San Francisco Bay Area. I try and keep note on my social media when I have readings coming up. So if you want to follow me on Instagram or something, and I'll follow you back, and you can keep in touch that way. And yeah, there are lots of different poetry communities in San Francisco, and I'm sure Ben can speak to this too, being in Oakland. It's there's quite a bit. Yeah. Yeah, writers, let's see, Bazaar Writers Salon is good. There are just a ton. If you want to send me an email or DM me on Instagram or something, I'll give you a list of things. For some reason, I can't remember any off the top of my head, but there's a lot.
Of course, that's how it goes, right? You can't remember when you're being called.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining. I'm actually going to cut it there because it's an hour, and I know on the East Coast it's getting pretty late. But feel free to email me with any questions. I'm happy to pass those on to the poet. And for the next 2 weeks, I've put a code into the chat, UU Poetry 25 on our website. You get 25% off of any of our poetry books, plus free domestic shipping. And so I hope you guys take advantage of that, buy these people's books. Also, you can request your local bookstore. It's hard sometimes for independent bookstores right now, so you can get from them. Anyway, I'd just like to really thank you all for attending this event, and thank you so much to everybody. Bye.
Thank you.